Well, instead of our grow forecast, we are going to look back on the 2014 big weather events across our area. And today we are talking with Mike Moritz from the National Weather Service in Hastings. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Oh, it's great to be here, Regina.
Well, we'll start off with the winter months because those were the chronological order. Were there any big weather events that you can recall from 2014 from the winter months?
Yeah, I think the winter was sort of a foregone thing last year. It really wasn't that exciting. We seemed to lack a significant winter weather event. We were able to bring some snow into the early part of the spring, but overall, the winter of last year wasn't very exciting for the area.
So there weren't any big snowfall or things that we can remember?
There was a pretty decent event in February. We were off to kind of a late start with the snow last year, which maybe seemed like made the winter kind of short. But overall, in terms of having that large scale winter storm that we're so often used to, 2 or 3 times a year, the winter of 2014 just really didn't shake out that way.
So moving on to the severe weather season, it seemed like a lot of severe weather impacted our area. Can you think of any storms that were big weather makers in our area?
Well, this could take a while. I mean, there were several. It was an active year. I look back and compared to the previous year of 2013, we issued more than 100 more warnings than we did the previous year, about 30% more. So if it seemed like there was more severe weather, there was more severe weather. We had 4 or 5 tornado days. A couple stand out. One in particular is Mother's Day, of course. That was the tornado events that worked their way through Clay and York and into Saline and Fillmore counties, that area with the tornado near Sutton, and the tremendous amount of wind damage that came from that as well. Not just the tornado itself, but the widespread wind damage. We also had tornadoes starting in April, going through June, actually later in the year, but we had another active day on June 3rd. We had a tornado that destroyed a home north of Aurora. I would say last year was a fairly typical day. We had 11 tornadoes in our region of the country here, which is fairly typical. We had 4 or 5 tornado days. So in general, though, I would say it was pretty typical, although we had a couple of good ones in there.
And how about, I guess, a longer time span? Did we see any change in the drought across our area?
Well, we did, and that also came with an increase in that severe weather. We saw 2 very wet months, June and August, where we saw some areas receive over 10 inches of rain. Sandwiched in there, July had hardly nothing, but that was really a part of that larger wind and hail events that we saw all summer long. They started actually in April, and we were destroying crops as late as October 1st. And there's a couple that stand out in there. In June, we had an 80-mile-per-hour wind event, really a 100-mile-per-hour wind event that really raked across all of southern Nebraska. Here in Hastings at the National Weather Service, we had 5 days where we had wind gusts over 70 miles an hour. I can't remember anything like that in my 20-year career here. This is probably the most active summer in terms of severe weather, in terms of hail and wind, lasting through the summer since the mid-90s. And one hail event I'm thinking of is July 9th, the storm that ripped across Sherman and Buffalo down into Kearney County, destroying hundreds of thousands of acres. So all that sort of added up to helping us break the drought. Yeah, we have to put up with some hail, but we definitely improved our drought status.
That is very true. Well, thanks so much, Mike, for joining us, and a Happy New Year to you.
Well, Happy New Year to you. Thanks.
One segment still to come, a look at the lighter side of our program. Stay with us.